In January 1995, 18-year-old Christa Pike, along with two others, lured her 19-year-old classmate Colleen Slemmer into an isolated area near the University of Tennessee. Slemmer was attacked and killed, and Pike subsequently convicted of her murder and sentenced to death. She has remained on death row for 32 years, passing through a long succession of appeals and legal challenges. I was reminded of George Orwell's essay, A Hanging, while listening to the hearing surrounding the method of Pike's execution. After so many years, the question was no longer simply whether she would die. It had become more chillingly precise. How should she die? The former British Foreign Secretary Douglas Hurd once observed that the stress and screaming takes place before one reaches the scaffold. Before hanging, there is often a strange quietness because the condemned has become resigned. Christa Pike seemed almost to have reached that state, appearing calm and detached after years of appeals and counter-appeals. But then came the paradox. When the avenue for overturning her sentence had narrowed to almost nothing, the instinct for self-preservation seemed to kick in. If death could no longer be escaped, perhaps the manner of death could be reimagined and contested. And this produced one of the most extraordinary ironies of the story. Her lawyers argued for hanging as a more humane way of killing her. Yet that very argument brought Orwell's A Hanging to mind because Orwell had written his essay to expose the cruelty and barbarity inherent in hanging a human being. Orwell's essay takes us to a bleak, rain-soaked prison in colonial Burma, where a condemned prisoner is being led to the gallows. Everything has become ritualistic and procedural. The guards know their orders, the officials know their duties, the sentence has been pronounced, and the scaffold awaits. Then, in the middle of this grim procession, the prisoner encounters something completely ordinary. He sees a puddle and instinctively steps around it. That small movement becomes Orwell's revelation. Suddenly, the prisoner is no longer an abstraction, no longer merely a criminal awaiting the enforcement of a sentence. He is unmistakably and painfully alive. His feet still seek dry ground, his eyes still register the world, his body still recoils from discomfort, his lungs still draw breath, and his heart continues its ancient rhythm. Every biological impulse remains engaged in the business of living, while the machinery of execution is preparing to extinguish his life. The irony is devastating. The law has declared that the man's life is finished, but his body has not yet received the message. Orwell understood that hanging was not simply a legal procedure or an administrative one, it was a physical destruction that is so powerfully shown in The Hanging. And this is where the stories of Christa Pike and George Orwell unexpectedly converge and collide. In Pike's case, hanging could be presented as the more humane method of execution. In Orwell's novel, hanging becomes an instrument through which the barbarity of execution itself is exposed. The same method is being viewed from opposite moral directions. One argument concerns how to make death less painful, while the other asks us to confront what it means to deliberately end the life of a conscious human being. Perhaps that contradiction tells us something profound about the pathology of death. On death row, the condemned suddenly become the center of extraordinary attention in their final stages. Lawyers, courts, appeals, journalists, newsreel cameras, and last requests. And then, when the process is over, the attention disappears almost as completely as life itself.